in Time immediately tickled that soft spot in my heart for classic character platformers like Spyro the Dragon or Ratchet & Clank, worlds I spent years of my childhood romping through, collecting all the shiny things. Most of the elements are here: outlandish characters, simple yet addictive platforming mechanics, my favorite throwback, minigames. But A Hat in Time lacks the cohesiveness in its design that made those experiences so memorable. The tropey, glowy thing that you must collect in A Hat in Time are timepieces. Hourglasses doubling as fuel that have escaped your spaceship and scattered across the planet below. You play as the caped crusading Hat Kid who has to collect them all up again. Your timepieces have ended up in some strange places though, so to find them, you'll travel across several diverse, colorful worlds, completing missions for each planet's zany inhabitants. It's a simple yet addictive and time-tested premise. These missions offer wonderful diversity that changes up the gameplay significantly. In one level, I might be leading a parade train to help movie-producing penguins shoot their next big flick. In another, admittedly terrifying level, I'm tasked with sneaking through a house to steal a timepiece back from the evil Shadow Queen that haunts it. Tight platforming mechanics support these antics that make climbing up walls and hook swinging over pits of lava immensely satisfying. The story-focused missions don't offer much in the way of challenge, but A Hat in Time makes up for this in time rifts, secret levels that put your platforming chops to the test. These platforming challenges are welcome, almost cathartic respites from each world's bombastic, action-packed story missions. And considering you're also rewarded with a timepiece for completing each one, there's plenty of incentive to track them down. In addition to time rifts, each world's boss fight serves as another test of your platforming finesse. Each showdown adds a welcome dose of challenge to A Hat in Time's melting pot of simple platforming missions, as defeating each boss requires you to be quick on your cute little feet. You also need to take advantage of mechanics explored in that boss's hub world, like one world's introduction of the hook swing, or apples that explode when you throw them, so beating a boss impresses a sense of mastery in those abilities. The combination of diverse story missions, platforming challenges, and boss fights keeps A Hat in Time from ever becoming dull, but it does mean you'll become pretty familiar with the game's loading screen by the time you fell the final boss. Each of the eccentric worlds you go to, like the breezy coastal city of Mafia Town and the spooky Subcon Forest, are fully explorable from the start, and each story mission takes place in a different part of these hubs. But the game never lets you settle into these colorful worlds, pulling you out of the level to your spaceship hub whenever you complete a mission. This keeps gameplay fresh by allowing players to easily hop to new and old worlds, or to replay missions they really enjoyed, but at the expense of being pulled out of the experience just as you were getting into it. This pacing issue extends to the game's ending, which you can complete before you've found every timepiece. I finished the last story mission around 65% game completion, but as frenetic and fun as the final mission is, making it available so early in the game left me feeling unincentivized to continue exploring afterward. This, even despite the game introducing an entirely new, free roam hub for me to explore. Ironically, I had the most fun in this final endgame hub, which made me wonder why the rest of A Hat in Time wasn't designed the same way. Just as the game struggles to reward you for playing past the last boss, it doesn't provide much of a payoff for collecting the game's bubbles, called pawns, scattered throughout the world. Pawns act as a currency that you can use to unlock new missions or buy upgrades for Hat Kid, expressed as cute little badges on your hat. But after the first 3 hours playing, I'd already purchased the 4 or 5 useful badges, so again, I spent much of the game without anything to look forward to. You can also craft new hats for Hat Kid by finding just out of reach balls of yarn that you can only obtain by completing brief platforming challenges. Thankfully, collecting balls of yarn yields a greater payoff than tediously tracking down pawns. New hats grant Hat Kid mostly useful abilities, like the brewing hat that lets you throw explosive concoctions at your enemies, or the sprint hat that, when upgraded, lets you race through levels on a moped. Switching between these abilities is seamless, unlike switching your badge upgrades, which requires you to pause the game and switch upgrades in the mere 3 available slots. That's what most of A Hat in Time feels like, a modge-podge of creative ideas only amateurly stitched together. The game teeters between delightful charm and blatant lack of polish. If a lighthearted collectathon platformer is your jam, A Hat in Time will constantly please you with its fun platforming and nuanced, cartoony world. But don't go in expecting the finish and cohesion of the classic platformers it takes its inspiration from.